Welcome back, Rugby fans, to Rugby411. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joshua Shibata, and this is our Week 4 preview of the 2025 MLR season. Lots of exciting games coming down. Again, don't forget, you can watch all of these games live and literally later on in demand, much quicker than we thought, on ESPN Plus if you are in the United States, internationally on the Rugby Network. I know ESPN Plus, a little bit, you have to pay for it. The Rugby Network, of course, absolutely free. But if you don't want to pay for ESPN Plus, you have to wait 72 hours after it is first aired on ESPN Plus before it'll pop up on the Rugby Network. On ESPN Plus, the games come up automatically right after they air live. Again, I think it's a phenomenal deal. It's great exposure for Major League Rugby. I have the package of ESPN Plus with Hulu and Netflix? No, Hulu, ESPN Plus. I think that's the combo. It's a great deal. I don't see why you wouldn't want to do that, especially because, again, lots of great rugby access on there. So, again, if you're part of my SuperBru Pick Em pool, make sure you get your picks in because we have Friday 41st. We have some very interesting games coming up. Unfortunately, a few of them being aired at the same time, so that's always a tough one. But let's get to it. So, game number 1, Friday, March 7th, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We have the Chicago Hounds, who just took down the reigning, defending, two-time MLR champions, taking on the Miami Sharks, who barely squeaked by Anthem Rugby Carolina. These two teams have played each other twice, of course, last season, and in those 2 times, Chicago won both of those games. It should be mentioned, as I mentioned before in my prior video, Chicago not at 100% strength. No Dylan the Butcher Fawcett, no Adrian Carlesi. Miami did not release their roster as of this time of filming, which is Wednesday night. So don't know who's there, but to be honest, I still feel, especially after the way Chicago took down New England in a really impressive fashion, I think Chicago probably has this game pretty well handed. It is going to be at the Baptist Health Community Field in Miami, but I still think Chicago will come in still on that high from beating the New England Free Jacks and will take down Miami. Then we move on to Saturday. We have 2 games in the early afternoon, both of them at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so that kind of sucks. You kind of have to choose between the two or go back and forth. We have first Anthem Rugby Carolina taking on Old Glory DC. As I mentioned before, Anthem losing a heartbreaker against Miami. Old Glory trying to lick their wounds from being beaten down by San Diego. This takes place at the Soccer Metroplex, home of the Old Glory DC. Both these two teams played against each other last season twice. Old Glory one of those. Both of those pretty handily. I'll be honest, kind of sitting on the fence on this one. I do believe Anthem will win at least 4 games this season. Man, I kind of think Anthem will win this, but I think Old Glory, after the San Diego game, will not want to let Anthem run over them at home. Maybe playing in Anthem would be a little bit different, so Old Glory will win. I know, Rugby Morning, you're probably just recovering from a heart attack because I was on the fence on this one, but I am going to go with Old Glory with the win. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's not by a lot. Then we move to a West Conference showdown between Houston SaberCats, who are looking pretty good, and the even hotter looking Utah Warriors. This one's going to be at Zion Field in Utah, also 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. These two teams have faced off against each other 10 times. Houston with a slight lead, 6 wins over Utah's 4 wins. Interestingly enough, both of these teams, their wins are split equally between home and away. Houston has won 3 at home. Houston has won 3 away. Utah has won 2 at home, 2 away. So pretty even split. This will be probably one of the games of the week. We have 2 other games where I feel one of them might be the game of the week. It just depends on how the 2 teams play. But man, this game will be a pretty hot one, I feel. High score. I'd be shocked if it's not high scoring. The reason why I'm going to give it to Utah is because of the home pitch advantage here, which I believe is a thing. Utah has a hot crowd at Zion Stadium. Um, it's almost equivalent, I feel, to Seattle Starfire Stadium. Granted, I haven't been to either one. Goal is eventually to go to both of them. But I feel Utah will be pretty hot. They're the first team to score 100 points, tied for the record of fastest to get 100 points with 2 matches. Yeah, I think Utah takes this away. Despite the fact that Houston's been pretty hot this season, I think Utah will get the win in this Western Conference showdown. And now let's finish up the rest of the games of this week's slate. We have 2 amazing games, but unfortunately both of them starting at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So again, you're either going to have to go back and forth on ESPN Plus or the Rugby Network, or watch one of them, watch the other one on demand. So first we have on Saturday, March 8th, RFCLA taking on the San Diego Legion at Torneo Stadium. It is a Cali Cup showdown, of course, between the 2 Southern California teams. These 2 teams faced off against each other twice last season, and of course San Diego unfortunately winning both of those games, but by very small margins. San Diego winning by 1 point in their first time that San Diego and LA played against each other in San Diego, and then when they played in LA lost by 8. So a very close rivalry if you think about it. Now, in this game, I honestly am choosing with my heart. I know all facts will point otherwise. San Diego's looking very, very hot. Arguably the number 1 team in the league right now. Number 1 in my power rankings. There's no reason to think otherwise. LA is coming off of a bye. If you saw my last video, there is a curse of the bye. All 3 teams that were on bye last week lost pretty handily. And LA is still winless in their second season. So many reasons to pick San Diego, but I'm going with my heart. I mean, it's totally tearing up my heart to do this, but I'm going with my heart. And I'm picking LA. Let's go, LA. Let's go, RCLA. Going with the win. I'm going to say it's going to be by a small margin. I'll be shocked if we win by a lot, but I feel LA can go down into San Diego and take back the Cali Cup. And then, our final game of the evening could be match of the week. If it's, the Houston-Utah one will probably be the match of the week. It just depends on these 2. It is a rematch of last season's MLR championship game. But if you were to tell me that both of these teams were struggling with having a winning record, with one of them having no wins, the other at a 500, I would have been surprised. I really would have been. But that's the situation we're facing with. Seattle has not won a game yet. New England looking pretty bad in their game against Chicago. Now, granted, both teams were coming off of a bye. Now they're back in it, and both of them really, really looking for a win. As I mentioned before, head coach Alan Clarkey from Seattle Seawolves probably not happy with the situation they're in. New England definitely probably not happy with the situation they're in either. And so I'm sure they will come out with guns blazing. Interestingly enough, both of these teams have gone back and forth with their wins. They're like the Houston-Utah game, even. New England, they've played each other 6 times. New England up on the wins, 4 wins to Seattle's 2, including, of course, the win for the championship game. They did split, though, last season, where the game in the regular season, Seattle did beat New England. So they're 4-2. Seattle has won 1 at home, 1 away. New England has won 2 at home, 2 and away, just like the Utah-Houston game. This is being played in Seattle, Starfire Stadium. It's very, very loud, very supportive. New England does have to travel across the country to get to Seattle. I'm going to have to go with Seattle in this one. I think they'll have the chance. It's going to be shocking if they go 0-3 to start off the season. But I think it's just as shocking to see New England 1-2 at the beginning of the season. But that's, I feel, how it's going to be. So this will be a very close game, I feel. Have to go with Seattle just because of the home pitch advantage. So that is our preview video. Let me know who you think is going to win. And don't forget, again, if you are in my SuperBru Pick Em League, make sure you get your picks in, especially the Friday game before Friday. But we have some amazing rugby action for week 3. It's only for week 4. It's only week 4 of the season. I'm super excited. We still have plenty more Major League Rugby action to go. So again, thank you very much for checking out my videos, and I'll see you on the pitch.